morning and welcome to Let's Talk Charity with your host, Sherrye. Each week, Sherrye will share her years of experience and expertise working with nonprofits, philanthropists, and fundraising events. A new foundation will be highlighted weekly, and you'll learn about their mission, members, and clients. You'll hear about their goals, fundraising ideas, upcoming events, and they will share how they are making a difference in the lives of others. Let's Talk Charity is brought to you by 1000 North. Learn more at 1000north.com and call 561-570-1000 for reservations. Now, here's Sherrye.
Good morning and welcome to Let's Talk Charity. I'm Sherrye. Today I have a very exciting guest. I've been waiting several weeks to get her on my show. She was introduced by a friend of mine, Suzanne Needland, and who just put us together because I have a passion for working with children and families who have lost a loved one. And I want to welcome Cara Belvin. She is the founder and CEO of Empower. Welcome, Cara.
Thank you so much, Sherrye. I appreciate this.
Tell me about Empower. Why was Empower created? That was founded in 2013.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can give you maybe the short version, or start maybe with my personal story, which really fueled my interest in forming a nonprofit like Empower. I lost my mom, Kit, to breast cancer when I was 9 years old. And as I, grew up and lived my life and, college and marriage and kids and a career, I started my career as a school psychologist, actually, and just recognizing a need in the community for an organization like this. Looking back, growing up, I grew up in a small town in Connecticut, and I was just desperate to meet another girl whose mom died. And that didn't happen for years, and I guess to me it was like living on planet Mars, truly. I just never met another girl who could relate to the loss, and I had never known an adult woman who survived the loss of a parent. And, that's very isolating. And so it was about 10 years ago, I just kind of looked around and recognized this need in the community where I live here in Boston to start an organization for girls and women of mother loss to build community and come together and offer support and guidance. And now 10 years later, we're really proud to have expanded to serve all kids who've lost a mom or dad. So trying to build community for kids who've lost a parent, kids who really feel pretty isolated and who otherwise, as we would say, are silently grieving a parent.
Well, it's so wonderful that you recognize that at your young age, losing your mom at 9 years old, and that you carried that on and you made this amazing nonprofit it's around the world. I mean, what you're doing is just healing so many grieving hearts of children who lost a loved one.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, and what we do is so unique. There's so many beautiful nonprofit organizations around the country and around the globe dedicated to supporting childhood bereavement services and maybe support groups or bereavement camps in the summertime and such. But there was not a nonprofit that was operating a mentor program. And so this dream that I had all these years ago that now became a reality thanks to thousands of volunteers and $7 million later that we've raised over the last 10 years, this dream to really build a mentor program. So a lot like Big Brothers Big Sisters. In fact, I called them years ago and said, why don't you make those mirror matches? A girl like me, with a woman who has experienced the loss of her mom has a lot to teach and, teach loss is survivable. Or just that I exist. It's like an alien from your planet, like when you meet someone, in their 30s or 40s or 50s or, who says, I know a little bit about what it is to be you. When my mom died and it was very hard and it was very painful, but, there's still this beautiful life at your fingertips. That's what I was so desperate for. And so today we're the only nonprofit across the United States offering a mentor program for kids in grief. And you're right, Sherrye, just a couple of years ago, we expanded internationally, and our first international chapter is in the United Kingdom and serving girls in London. So we're really proud of that. But it's a real growth strategy to take, an idea like ours, something that doesn't really exist, and to build it from the ground up And so today we're active in 10 cities across the country, and of course, South Florida, we're really proud to be active in.
Well, tell me more about the mentor program. How does that work? How do these people get to you to empower?
So still word of mouth, and thankfully, opportunities like this to talk to you on Legends. We are looking for mentors, men and women who are age 25 and older, because we serve children up through age 24. Because, it's young kids, it's teenagers, and it's young adults. That's an interesting age between 19 and 24 years old, when it's sort of a transitional time. And those young adults don't have such a cushy landing, as their peers when they've experienced parent loss. So we serve kids up through age 24, and so we're looking for mentors, men and women who have had the experience of parent loss. So they could be a man or woman who maybe lost their mom or dad in childhood. That would make a great mentor, or maybe even lost a parent in adulthood, and just that commonality, just that, to stand and hold space for a child and say, I know a little bit about what it is that you're going through, is really life-changing. So our mentors are screened, and they're trained, and they're supported all throughout the year. Matchmaking is a very thorough process. We work really closely with every family to make sure that we understand what the family is looking for in a mentor, because a lot of kids have a lot of support. I was very fortunate growing up after my mom died. I had an army of friends and family that came around and helped my dad and my brother and I, and my mom's friends and family and cousins and sisters and brothers and grandparents. But I never met, a 40-year-old woman who had lost her mom in childhood and could still say, she moved forward in her grief, or she powered through her grief, or she learned lessons along the way that would help me when I was struggling. So mentors can live anywhere in South Florida and apply and be screened and trained and supported and monitored. We monitor the match, just like the program we're all familiar with at Big Brothers Big Sisters. That's been around for such a long time and doing such incredible work for our youth. It's just the same for kids in grief.
Absolutely. So a mentor is then matched with a child or with someone who's going through a loss?
Yes. Yeah. And it can be at any time. We have some children who enroll in our program very shortly after the loss of a parent, and some that it takes years for them to really come to the decision to enroll in a group like ours. We're the club no one wants to be a part of course. And to really be able to say you need help and want help and need the support or want this kind of support is really a courageous thing to do. So we're here whenever the family is ready to enroll the child. All of our services are free of charge, of course, and the mentor is a volunteer. And thanks to thousands of volunteers around the globe, we keep a really small staff, really lean staff, and we've remained volunteer-driven all this time. So we really rely on ambassadorship and volunteerism and just the love and compassion from a local community. So we say, think global, act local. We're really hyper local. So we're looking to make a match with a mentor who lives in the community where the child is, maybe within a 20 or 30 mile radius. And they can get together every month, or they can get together every couple months, whatever works for everyone's schedule. And they build this beautiful relationship over the course of that first year. And then after that year, we sort of transition into a much more organic, lifelong friendship for the family and the mentor. And, as we say, growing up, I would sort of latch on to, another child who lost their mom. It was like this instant connection I would have with this person, right? We could have very different personalities and, different likes, different walks of life. But there was this immediate bond, when you can see yourself in someone else's story. And that was true for the adult in my life who, as I got older and my world opened up and I traveled, or, I was meeting other adults who knew adversity and particularly knew parent loss. It was like an instantaneous connection I felt as well, that this was someone that I could learn from, someone ahead of me on my grief journey, who had been through it. And it's just life-changing.
It is life-changing. I just love that you've created this, Cara, because people deal with grief so differently. Some people will wait, like you said, not ready right after the loss of someone. It may be years before they realize, okay, I need help. I need to go talk about something. Grief can just kind of hide away until it stares you in the face and forces you to deal with the loss. It's that emotion that is just so private. It's such a roller coaster of feelings that people go through. But I like the mentorship what you're doing. I love this. I've never heard of anyone else doing anything like this, and it's incredible.
Well, the funny thing is, 10 years ago when I set out with this big, bright idea, I said, okay, no one is doing get-togethers for kids on Mother's Day, like one of the most emotional holidays for me growing up. And it was like the 2 weeks leading up to the day that were worse than Mother's Day itself, I'd say. But I was recognizing, maybe there's a way to host a bereavement camp or, a support group for kids on Mother's Day. And that's what we were doing at first. So I had organized and, I had formed this 501c3 and we were raising money and, building the board and really, spending a lot of time in programming. And the first program I built was the Mother's Day retreat. And teenage girls from, all across Massachusetts came together in a hotel on Mother's Day weekend. And it was magic. I mean, and the girls were just meeting for the first time, which is such a brave thing to do, for teenage girls. But they really were like me. They were desperate to meet someone else because in their small hometown, they think they're the only girl in the world whose mom died. And so I can prove to them, if I can get them together in a room, they can look around the room and realize they're not alone in their grief. They can come together on Mother's Day and we could build community and support each other. Again, all different walks of life, maybe don't have all the same interests and, don't look the same and talk the same, but have this one strong bond and sort of put each other in our back pockets, from then on. That first Mother's Day retreat, Sherrye, it multiplied into multiple events throughout the year. So all throughout New England for years, I was hosting beach parties and cooking classes and actors workshops and just really any event aimed at their interests just to kind of get us together. It was non-therapeutic. It was not a support group. It was not run by a clinician. It was just everyday girls with everyday women, women who knew, the pain of losing their mom.
Right, just making that connection heart to heart, just becoming friends and being supportive of each other.
Yes. And just see themselves in each other, right? And I lost my mom to a terminal illness, and there were girls who had experienced a sudden death, to substance use or a car accident. We all say, my grief is not more shiny or more important than yours. Like, hard things are just hard. And you need community, in my opinion, for that. And so those events were going on for a few years when I was recognizing the need for a mentor program. I was recognizing that girls needed a little bit more support year-round, outside of an event. The events can prove you're not alone in this. The events can prove there are other kids your age. They're not in your own town, so you might feel a little isolated where you are, but in the next town over, there are other families who can relate and kids who can relate to this painful loss. But I was recognizing that mentorship was really going to be at the heart of my mission, that if I could build community for a child and an adult, and that adult could be brave enough to hold space, talk about the loss. Because a lot of adults are not comfortable in a small community or, even in a big city. There usually aren't a lot of adults that maybe are coming around out of love. They're so afraid to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing.
Exactly. They don't know what to say or how to say it.
Yes, and I have empathy because I don't have the perfect thing to say either. I mean, still 10 years later, I'm still not the grief expert. It's really hard to talk to a kid after they've lost their mom or dad, and so a lot of us shy away from it because we're just so afraid to rock the boat or to step on dad's toes or, step on mom's toes. And so oftentimes kids have very minimal support growing up, but they might have straight A's, they might be looking the part, which was certainly the case for my brother and I growing up. But we had all this underlying pain, and no one asked us how we were doing. No one asked us if we were okay or if we needed more support. But a mentor can. I always say our mentors at Empower, they're really in the right job description. I don't even know that my father was in the right job description to help me grieve. He was 37 and grieving his wife and watching his kids grieve, which is an unbearable experience for a parent. And so we were all, my brother, my dad, and I just powering through. But had I had a mentor, someone that I could really call and not be afraid to really show my true colors, because a lot of us are afraid, to burden our own family, our aunts and uncles and cousins or teachers with our own pain.
Exactly.
Right?
And you end up acting like everything's okay when it's not.
Yeah, and
people
sort of
hide. They
protecting
hide it from
everybody
each other.
Yes. Again, out of love, I was trying to protect my grandmother, or I was trying to protect my dad, or my brother, or my my aunt, because I didn't want to see them cry one more time either. They didn't want to see me cry one more time. So if I had had a mentor, someone that was really kind of neutral and like not in my family nucleus, not in my everyday life, but someone that I could really kind of put in my back pocket and call on, good times and bad. I mean, kids still want to celebrate all the good times. They want to laugh. They don't want to feel guilty for being happy after a parent dies, right? But they also don't want to learn rules that it's not okay to talk about it. And I feel like, especially for me growing up, Sherry, I'm 47 years old. My mother died in 1986. Hope Edelman is my dear friend and great author and researcher on this topic. And she says, well, that was the grief ages, or the dark ages of grief back then. There weren't a lot of supports. There weren't a lot of camps or support groups. But also, people were so afraid, to talk about the death of a young parent in a community. And so back then, I was learning rules, that it's not okay to talk about my mom.
Well, it wasn't okay to talk about feelings then. They just
Yeah.
parents didn't know how to express feelings, so the children didn't know how to talk about it either. But the 10 years that you've had in Power Care, I can imagine all the people the children that you've been in contact with, the choices that they now are making in their life because they had support, because they had somebody to help them heal, and the resilience and the strength that they are probably now using that to create amazing careers from themselves because they had a mentorship.
Yes. I believe in mentorship. I think we all do in this country, right? And now that I've branched out into the United Kingdom, I can look at youth mentorship from a bigger lens. And youth mentorship is, it can change a child's life. Just showing up, an adult who shows a child they care is really by definition a mentor.
Exactly.
So think about it in the grief space, right? A lot of adults they have a hard time showing up for a kid, again, out of love. Don't want to bring it up or remind them of this pain that's already in their life. And, I would tell you, it's not like I forgot that my mother died. I was looking really for people to create spaces for me to actually be okay to talk about her. I wanted to talk about her. But it's hard. And then you learn, not to burden somebody else with this. And so you do keep it to yourself. But that can really destroy a child's confidence.
I agree. I think it is important for them to talk about their mother or the father, whoever it is that's passed away, to keep them alive in their hearts.
Yes, true.
Now, the mentorship program, do you still have these events where you all gather together, or you do?
Yeah, we say, take what you want and leave the rest. Not every child rushes in when they enroll at Empower. Not every child rushes into the events because that might be intimidating, right? What I was desperate for was I did want to walk into a room with 100 other kids who could relate to the loss of their mom, but to some that might be a little bit intimidating at first. And so perhaps being matched with a mentor is an easier way to sort of ease in. And then our mentors and kids, they attend the events together. Just yesterday, we had dozens and dozens of kids in Boston here, jewelry making. And they were at the Kendra Scott store who welcomed us in with open arms.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, yeah. And, companies like that, I was learning, ways to really scale this program was with local community support and volunteers in the community to plan the event, and companies like Kendra Scott who would open their doors and keep everything free of charge. And so I didn't have to work even harder to raise money. And they, welcome all the mentors and the girls in together. So you look around the room and it's like girls supporting girls, women supporting women. And just yesterday, this event that we held, this was for girls who lost a mom or dad. And the women at the event were women who've lost their mom or dad. So in that, just trying to reiterate, like, we're all in this together. Like, we were never suggesting it's harder. People say things like that, like, oh, well, it must be harder to lose your mom than a dad. Those things don't apply in painful losses, right? It's just hard things are hard. And so to really bring girls together with a mentor, the mentors are building community amongst themselves. Some of our mentors have become the best of friends because they're adults volunteering at my organization who've understood the best way to, build community for kids is role model for them. And so these women that are really becoming close and leaning on each other, they, are 30, 40, 50 years old and saying, God, where were you when I lost my mom or dad in childhood? But now really jumping in with 2 feet and saying, this cause means more to me than anything I've ever done. I volunteered for years at such and such and such and such, but this I have more conviction for because this is so deeply personal to me. The loss of my mom or the loss of my dad was nothing more deeply personal. And so they're really, giving my idea life. I always say that, Sherry, it was like a good idea I had. I'll say it was a good idea and I don't do it alone. I put this out there and it struck a nerve in the community in Boston, and then thousands of women from around the world started to call me.
So needed. It's like the organization I was involved with. Unfortunately, we closed our doors like in 2009 when the market crashed and everything happened. We lost a lot of our funding, but it is still so needed here. And people say to me, Sherrye, why don't you recreate it? Why don't you open up, do that again? But it's something that's definitely is needed, especially during the time of we're living in such incredible times of people losing a loved one. But if one of our listeners wanted to become a mentor carer, what would they do? What would be the process?
Simply go to our website and click join. You would join as an adult and you would, learn more about the volunteer opportunity. You would learn about the process of becoming a mentor in Florida or wherever you are listening if you're in one of our active regions. So simply going on our homepage, I think will tell you exactly what next steps to take. And our website is weareempower.org.
I have to say, I love your website. I read a lot of the testimonials on there. You've got a really, really great website that's very easy to navigate. It's got all the information you need. But I love reading a lot of the testimonials from the kids. Just beautiful.
Yeah, well, they've really paved the way. Like I said, my mother died over 30 years ago, and I don't think much has changed. Unfortunately, it's still very much an under-researched, underfunded issue across the country. I think it's a public health crisis, quite honestly.
I agree.
But the kids are really paving the way. I put the idea out there, and they're helping me to make sure that our programs really meet their needs. Like I said, take what you want and leave the rest. I can't assume that every child wants exactly what I was desperate for growing up, and every family story is very different and very unique, and everyone's pain is very unique, and grief is complex. So we're really, we've learned a lot about the feedback. We've taken the feedback from the kids and their surviving guardians and tried to build programs that were going to be most impactful for what they wanted.
Well, we're almost out of time, Cara. As I told you, this would go by very quickly. I could talk much longer, but tell me about your fundraising.
Yeah, we're 100% privately funded. We've never received government grants. We've raised over $7 million since I started. As volunteer-driven orgs often do, a lot of our fundraising initiatives are volunteer-driven, so it's been a lot of special events and charity runners programs and, in Florida and beyond, grant making, foundation giving. We've had successful major gift programs, and those things have really, set the stage for us and ensured that all of our programs remain at no charge to the family, and that's really important to us.
Well, I know you had one at my husband's restaurant, 1000 North. That's what Suzanne and I got to talking about. She said that you had something there, and
that was incredible. And that was such a generous partnership with that restaurant and such a great example. I'm so glad that you brought that up. That was
well, we'll have to have you back. Let's do another one.
Yes, please. That's really, you know, how we host fundraisers that are really mission focused. That was actually our Mother's Day Luminaria event. So the Luminaria bags, you know, personalized with our loved ones' names on them, were right outside on the water.
I love the luminaries. That's wonderful that you did that.
Gorgeous. And all the money raised stays in the local community. And that event at 1000 North was a very generous partnership, keeping our expenses low. You know, I don't think donor dollars, you know, should be spent on expensive galas and the food and beverages.
I agree.
Instead, a great partnership can, you know, keep my expenses low, where all the proceeds really go to the program. And then that event in turn creates a lot of public relations. It creates a lot of awareness locally when you partner with a strong brand like 1000 North. So we would definitely look to do it again. We're always hosting special events because the event is also a way for us to storytell. And as I mentioned, it's really hard, you know, to listen to a young widowed father, or a young widowed mom from the community get on a microphone at an event like that and share her story or his story, or a teenage boy, a teenage girl to share. Because, again, those are the things that are really hard for us to hear. And I always say, you know, I'm going to tell you something you can't unhear. And, you know, this needs to be talked about more. And there should be more support locally for kids grieving a parent. And so those events have largely been the way that we've funded all of our programs, you know, special events and charity runners and, you know, corporate partnerships has paved the way. Our focus is more on major gifts in, you know, the coming years, really to build more substantial funding for our future. About a year ago, we were the recipient of a $1 million gift from a friend here in Boston who was watching what I was doing, you know, for girls who lost their mom, and with that made a $1 million unrestricted gift so that we could expand to become more gender inclusive and start serving all kids who've not only lost their mom, but also their dad.
We will have to continue this discussion another time, Cara. Definitely, let's you and I speak about putting something together back at 1000 North. I think that would be wonderful. Let's plan it around Mother's Day.
Let's do it.
If that's honestly, seriously, let's do it. But we're out of time. But I want to thank you so much for being on the show today. And I just love what you're doing. It's absolutely so empowering. The name itself is just fantastic. So,
thank you, Cher.
Yeah, so thank you so much. Want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and go out and spread love and kindness to everyone. And I'll be back next Saturday with a new guest. Thank you so much, Cara. Have a wonderful holiday, and you and I will speak soon and get something planned.
Happy holidays.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks for listening to Let's Talk Charity on Legends 100.3, brought to you by 1000 North. For reservations, call 561-570-1000. Tune in at the same time next week for more with Sherrye and how these wonderful organizations and you can make a difference.